So welcome to the June Zoom of the Jaffna Club. As always, it's the last Sunday of the month. So the agenda today is a quick welcome address from me. And then our speaker is Mr. Moahan Balendra, who is the senior partner of Sinnadurai Sundaralingam Balendra, which is involved in many areas of the law, but also including corporate law. So I give the email that you can contact Mohan directly, and also for general inquiries to his firm. As usual, I go through the objective just for people who haven't been at one of these Zooms before, and many more people actually watch the recording than are live here. So the Jaffna Club's objective: the club will facilitate, foster and support social intercourse and fellowship among its members. It will build a network of members and non-members that can work together to promote the economic development of the Northern Province. What is the club for? The club is a catalyst. So when I say it's a catalyst, it's not the club's objective to build an empire for itself. The club doesn't invest, it doesn't raise funds, it doesn't make donations, but it helps people like us connect with each other. So we will meet other people, and you may directly contact other people that you may see in these calls. You know, there are recordings of most of the Zooms, and you may see those and decide to connect with some of our earlier speakers. So the club is a catalyst. It helps people like us connect with Northern entrepreneurs and also with business opportunities. So you may see opportunities where you'd like to become a customer, buy product, services, or maybe you'd like to invest. So we've had uninterrupted every month since September 2020. We're coming towards our 5th birthday. And I just slowly page through this so you can see the kind of people that we've had speaking to us. So we've had CEOs and managing directors of companies. We've had educators. We've had lawyers. This is the second time Mohan is speaking to us. First time Mohan, a year or two ago, spoke about property law in the Northern Province. Again, many misconceptions there. So we've had people from manufacturing, agriculture, software. We had an Ayurvedic doctor who spoke to us. And our most recent speaker was Jasmine Francis last month, who is a consultant, business consultant, but she's also CEO of her own firm, Vani Kashin. So now we can continue with Mohan. Mohan, do you want to share the screen, or are you?
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. I don't need. If I have need, I'll let you know. So my name is Mohan Balendra. As Jekhan said, I've been a lawyer for about 25 years now. So I run a law firm. We also have a company secretarial practice. So we do many company incorporations and also assist companies setting up here and get approvals. With me here is Mr. R.Jeyamanon, who is a retired. Can you see him, Jekhan?
Okay, I'm going to then drop my. Okay, let me see. So when you say, can I see him? Is he in your window?
Yeah, he's just seated next to me.
Ah, okay, yeah. We have a large number of people this time, so yes, we can see him, yes.
Okay, so Mr. R.Jeyamanon is a former Registrar General of Companies in Sri Lanka, so he's our consultant. There is another member of our staff also online, so if there's any need, they'll step in. So I went through the questions that Jekhan has forwarded. One is about ownership of company in Sri Lanka. There is also a distinction between citizens and non-residents. The law here actually deals with non-residents. And there is a definition that has been published in a gazette that goes on to define who a resident is and who is a non-resident. So answering the question, yes, non-residents could own companies in Sri Lanka. The percentage would depend on the type of business the company intends to involve itself. When Sri Lankan nationals and residents involving themselves in companies, when they incorporate companies, they don't have to have an object clause. So far as you have a local NIC, you don't have to have an objects. The company could do anything and everything it wants, so far as it's within the law. But when a non-resident, a non-Sri Lankan wants to incorporate a company, you have to come up with objects of the company. So that would set the area or areas in which the company intends to involve itself. That would determine whether the shareholders, the non-Sri Lankan shareholders could hold the entirety of the shares, or whether there's a cap put on. Usually the Sri Lankan economy is broken into 3 areas. One is completely open to non-residents. The other one is partially open, and the other one is completely restricted. So if I touch on the ones that are partially open, that is the tea, rubber, coconut, rice, spices, mining, deep sea fishing, freight forwarding, education, travel agencies. Those are fields where there is a 40% cap on shareholdings by these non-Sri Lankan residents. However, with approval of the BOI, they could increase their stake in the company. Then there are other areas which are completely closed, like pawnbroking, coastal fishing, security services, gambling, etc. I'll just stop there for a moment. Does anyone want to clarify anything about? Yes, and also there's retail trade. Retail trade, it's only reserved for the locals. If any non-resident wants to do it, they'll have to bring in a minimum of $5 billion US.
Mohan, I have a question. Now,
Yeah.
you said that nowadays a company doesn't have to have stated objectives.
Mm-hmm.
But if a non-resident is setting up a company, then he has to or she has to state their objectives. What happens if a non-resident wants to buy shares in a company that has no stated objectives?
So we are required to then amend the articles to bring in an object clause.
But even if they buy 1 share, then you have to...
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And they have to, there'll be at least 1 mandatory clause to be added saying that they will not involve themselves in retail trade.
It should be confined to these restrictions, otherwise they can't buy shares.
The areas. Yes, yes, of course. Again, just like the restriction that applies when the company is started, the same restrictions would apply if a person wants to invest into an existing company. If that company is involved in areas that are prohibited or restricted, then the same restrictions would apply. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
So that is in answer to question 1. can we move on to question 2?
Yes,
just-
please. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, just one more. What happens if it's a conglomerate you're investing in?
If it's a public quoted company, that's a different thing altogether. But this is a private, if we are talking about private limited companies, public limited companies, say if you, for instance, there are a few blue chip companies like John Keel's, those shares are widely traded and foreigners could also own shares.
Hmm.
Yeah, but you could have a private conglomerate.
Okay, so I think Mohan, I think what
Yeah.
Sean is talking about is, say, I know of a privately held company which has subsidiaries.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually a software company, and it has one subsidiary that does software development and another subsidiary that does BPO. So it has 4 or 5 subsidiaries.
Yeah.
So in that case, there's no problem because I think all of those are allowed for foreigners to own. Yes.
No, so it all depends on the articles, the objects of the company. If the company says that it intends to invest in subsidiaries in other industries, then the registrar of companies may request the object clause of the other companies as well. The
Okay.
subsidiary. Because
Right.
if you are going to, if the company is going to hold subsidiaries, then that has to be included as an object of the company that you intend to invest in.
Yes. Yeah, so that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Mohan
Yeah.
Sati here. Just
Hi,
one
sir.
question. Hi, Mohan. You said about the resident. If
Yeah.
the resident is a non-citizen,
Mm-hmm.
you may ask how can he be a citizen, resident if he is a non-citizen?
Yeah.
If he will say that he is a resident because he has a business visa because he owns another BOI company.
Mm-hmm.
So hence he is a resident in terms of visa. Can he invest in a company, on a local company without amending the article?
So that's a gray area because the definition seems to indicate that they have a free area to operate in. In fact, they would have restrictions placed by the ROC. There is no. There was a definition of a non-resident, but it's still, you know, in Sri Lanka there are gray areas, and this is one of those. Theoretically, yes, you should be excluded, but in practice they are not.
Okay, Bob Sudarshan has his hand up. Bob?
Thank you,
Hello,
Jekhan.
Bob.
Mr. Balendra, this is a trickier question. So in Australia, I'm calling from Australia here. We have generally it's considered you've got public limited, listed in shares, which you can trade, and then you've got proprietary limited. Okay. But in the US and also in Europe, there are different standards coming to what's called purpose-led businesses, right? So which is like PTY Ltd, but in US it's C Corp and then there's B Corp. And in Europe, there's new purpose standards. And my whole field is that it's purpose at profit. So it's like social enterprise. So is this been on the register of just, I'm wondering whether there's other structures apart from just public limited or private. Are there any other structures in the pipeline or not including not-for-profit, obviously, that's completely separate. I'm talking about commercial structures.
Not really. I mean, when it comes to public, the quoted shares, there are different, like there is the Colombo Stock Exchange, and there are, I think, 1 or 2 other platforms where companies could be quoted or semi-quoted. But on the whole, there are, it's broadly classified into public held companies and privately held companies.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Public held companies also could be quoted and unquoted, but apart from that, they are not as developed as what you are referring to. Yes,
Mr.
that's not-
Mohan, Mr.
Guarantee-
Mohan,
Yeah, just give me 1 second, please. Guarantee is yes, Mr. R.Jeyamanon, you're from the BOI. Yes, please enlighten
yeah,
us.
yeah. There in Sri Lanka, there are two type of act is working on the investment matters. One is Exchange Control Act, and second one the BOI Act. So the Exchange Control Act saying what? There's a 40 or 49, only there's a possible outsider of the Sri Lanka. So the BOI Act is saying up to 100% the foreigner can involve in the project. It's overcoming. There's a Exchange Control Act of the control by there's a BOI law. This is for your information,
Yes.
right?
So,
You continue. Yeah, continue.
Mr. Rasanayagam. So, Mr. Rasanayagam is in charge of the BOI office in Jaffna, a very knowledgeable gentleman. In fact, I had a long conversation with him this morning. What he's trying to highlight is the fact that the partially opened areas of the economy, you can go up to 40%. And I said, with permission, you can go up. So that is what he's clarifying. With BOI approval, you can go up to 100%.
Mohan, so this will be the last question on this topic, and then we'll move on to the second. And as I'm the boss, I'm going to ask it. So is there a loophole with limited by guarantee companies? Because there are no shareholders for a limited by guarantee.
So the limited for guarantee means it's usually a non-profit. So it's whereas in a limited company, say you and I start a company, Jekhan, we decide, say we have say 51% and 49%. So one person will put in say 510,000 rupees and the other one will put in 490,000 rupees, and the stated capital will be 1 million, right?
Yes. No, sorry, Mohan. Sorry to interrupt. So all that I suspect people understand, but you can set up a company, a limited by guarantee company, which can control a business. And in that case,
non-profit. Yeah, so that's what I'm coming at. Whereas a private limited company is where, say you and I want to start it, you one person put 510,000, the other put for 490,000, say, and then that's the capital of the company, 1 million.
Yeah.
Where
okay.
guarantee company, no one puts any money. They only undertake to put in some money if the need arises. There is a particular amount up to which they guarantee that they will step in and pay, and that's it. That's in the articles.
All right. Okay,
So,
thank you, Mohan. We'll move on to the second question because otherwise this will take a long time.
okay, the second question is, does a non-citizen legally require a local partner? So this is partially answered earlier. This is relevant where we have restrictions on ownership, which where the restriction is where you can own up to 40% or go up to 100% with the approval. So the need for a local partner arises between that 40% and 100%. Is that
yeah. Are there any questions on
that?
And I just make one comment that trying to run a business remotely is almost guaranteed to fail.
Mm-hmm.
So in practical terms, any person in the diaspora, any person overseas who wants to run a business, in practical terms, they need a trusted local partner. But as Mohan says, in legal terms, it follows the same rules as share ownership. Okay, so if no one has questions on that, then Mohan, we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah. So one other one is whether a non-citizen, as the question goes, whether is compelled to go through the BOI. No, no, you don't have to. BOI was started in the 1978 in the form of a Greater Colombo Economic Commission, I think, when the economy was liberalized to facilitate foreign investment in Sri Lanka. Now it's the BOI. It's supposed to be a one-stop shop. Just to borrow from its own website, it calls itself the Apex Agency for Foreign Direct Investment in Sri Lanka. And then they go on to say that over 40 years, they have approved 1,600 projects. And it says it carries out, its primary functions are investment promotion, and that is done sector-wise, sector-based investor targeting by specializing after navigating regulation investor operations to reach its true and highest potential throughout the lifespan of the enterprise. So basically what happens is the BOI is a facilitating body, which in some instances is able to assist the foreign investor to own more than 40% of the shares. In addition, they help you with things like visas, approvals, because sometimes projects need approvals from line ministries. They normally assist to facilitate or expedite those processes. But it's not compulsory to have BOI registration for a non-Sri Lankan investor to invest in companies or start his own business or her business in Sri Lanka. Yes, I'll explain that down. Yes. Any questions on that? Can we move on to the other one?
Yeah,
Sorry.
so I'll just very quickly say that. So I've been in Jaffna the last 10 years, and I know a lot of diaspora investors. And I know many who are companies that are fully owned by the diaspora person. So just to reinforce that, someone needs to mute their screen. Okay, if you're not speaking, can you please mute your Zoom? Sathi, is that you? Can you mute your Zoom? Satyendra.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, Sathi. Okay, let's move on, Mohan, to the next one.
Okay. Then the question is about a minimum investment for BOI companies and non-BOI companies. So non-BOI companies, there is no minimum investment that is required. And when it comes to BOI approved companies, there are two streams. One is known as the Section 16 stream, where you, through applying to the BOI, get the required authority and approval to set up a company in Sri Lanka. But there is a minimum investment of $250,000 that has to be brought into the country. Whereas a Section 17 approved company is entitled to benefits and concessions in the form of customs duties and related charges. For instance, if you want to import raw materials for your project here, not anymore. That has been. So if you want to bring in raw materials, they could be brought in without a duty under strict supervision of the BOI, and they sometimes have bonded warehouses where you keep your raw materials, then you manufacture, use them in manufacture, and this is usually made available for export-oriented companies. They also, again, in addition to all the other assistance that they give in respect to visas and all that, they also have minimum investment criteria. In fact, if I cite a few examples, for education, it's only US $100,000. For IT is US $150,000. Agriculture is $150,000. For agriculture, for instance, I've seen many of the Tamil diaspora have started farms in Jaffna and other areas in the north and the east. So if they want to introduce technology, vertical farming, and such innovative methods, then they could register, subject to a minimum investment of $150,000, get assistance from the BOI to set up, and also get concessions. And also they have BOI has also given an additional benefit for people setting up in the northern area, where the capital allowances are twice it's 200%. So for instance, if you buy, say, some equipment or computer, and your depreciation is 25,000 rupees, say 250,000 rupees for the year, so that will be a tax deductible expense. In addition, you would also be entitled to setting off an allowance of 500,000 rupees against your profits, which is tax advantageous.
So Mohan, Mohan. So that means 750,000 in total. So
yes.
the 250,000 plus
yes.
another
yes.
500,000.
But for that, there should be a minimum investment of $3 million. So, you know, the projects that you have in mind has to be looked at it in isolation, and to see whether it's worth taking the BOI route, and whether it's Section 16, if so, whether 16 or 17. So it all depends. You cannot. It's difficult to paint all the companies with the same brush. So I think if you have an idea, best thing is to have a project proposal, and then reach out to the BOI if your investment is going to be in the tens of thousands of US dollars, and then decide whether you want to apply for these benefits. Sometimes they make a huge difference. Of course, once you are registered with the BOI, there is an annual charge, and there are returns to be filed. So it's difficult for anyone to make a decision without actually knowing the nuts and bolts of the operation to see whether it's worth taking the BOI route.
So Mohan, I have another question about the BOI. So I'm thinking about the relatively low hurdles. So you're saying agriculture and IT is $150,000. Now, does that have to be put in at the beginning, or can that be scheduled over 2 years or something like that?
So you are supposed to give a project. Mr. Rajanayakam, do you want to step in?
Sorry, do you mean Mr. Jeyamanon?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
okay. That's
name
not
is
to show your money in hand, right? That's a project report only. That's a documentary only. You need to prove the project will be established with the amount of money. That's enough. We don't want to show your money in our hand. Have you got the point? So
yes.
there are you can ask the implementation period. So first year or second year, 2 years. Or even you can ask more year or more period. That's why we couldn't do something within a certain period, so that you can ask. You can make a request. With a request, no issue.
Okay, now Bob's got his hand up, but I'm just going to ask a quick question now. So in the example of an IT company, the setup are relatively low, but the running costs are quite high because the salaries are high. So as, say, to reach your $150,000, are you allowed to include basically the working capital, the salaries, as part of your investment? So if you're a company in Australia, and you know that to set up the company, it will cost $50,000 to put a deposit on the lease and buy tables and chairs and computers. But you also know that it's going to cost you another $150,000 in the first year to pay the salaries. Will that count as $200,000?
To the best of my knowledge, it's mainly capital expenditure that is that has to fall within this category. Mr. Rajanayakan, do they allow a percentage of working capital as well?
No. That's a very good question. Actually, your project need to be run the profit way, so that this amount of capital or whatever that's the amount of money need. So that's the investment amount mean fixed assets plus working capital. So no issue.
Okay, thank you. Bob,
That's a
you have a
working
question?
capital also. That's the project cost.
Yes, exactly.
I think Mr. Rajanayakan, what they're trying to ask is there a proportion? Could the working capital be many times over the capital outlay?
You see, there's a Mr. Mohan, whatever reality is there. The salary, how many numbers?
Yeah.
So if you appoint a certain number of amount, at the same time you need to develop the other factors or other sectors, other infrastructure. Without that, you can't run the business. So that anyway, it will involve. So whatever amount, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
You see, if you appoint a one person in your company, only your salary matter is only one person. Try to realize, right? Anyway, if you introduce or appoint a one person, only one computer is enough, right? A small space is enough. If you involve in the 100 numbers of employee, so you need to provide the 100 computer or whatever infrastructure facilities. So the reality is there. Don't worry about that, right? The reality we know. Have you got the point?
Yeah, Mr. So basically, Jekhan, what
That's a simple matters, no? Simple.
Yeah. It's all subjective. It all depends on your project proposal, and it's a proportionality, because it's usually now the capital sum is easier to determine. Your working capital is something that you need to substantiate to show that it is proportionate to the project proposal. And as you said, in an IT environment, the hardware cost might not be phenomenal, whereas the working capital, especially in the initial years, could be high. So
yes.
But it all depends on the project, as we said earlier.
Yeah, I mean, my background is in IT, and everything you say is correct, except initial years, because it only gets higher. So as your staff gets more experience.
I'm glad someone like Mr. Rasanagam is online, because these are very subjective components, and sometimes it's difficult to advise because it all depends on how the BOI looks at the project.
Yeah, exactly. Bob, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. I'm working with a client, and they were tempted between they're doing agriculture, food agriculture, manufacturing, and they end up opening a factory in Tamil Nadu instead of the north. But I don't believe they are aware of the BOI incentives as an example. So can you just say what I know that this is only just a guide, but as is it 100K you mentioned? What was the
For agriculture,
for agriculture? Yeah.
for 150.
150. Okay. And so the same principles, right? It will be the working capital and the fixed capital as well. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The mix
Thank
is
you.
something I like to emphasize, because in the mix would depend on the BOI officer.
Mr. Mohan.
Yeah.
Mr. Mohan.
Yeah, I can hear you.
In addition, I like to mention that agriculture mean agriculture or relevant agriculture project also possible. That's mean value addition process also possible within that extent of the certain amount of investment. That one is the value addition project can start or continue within the threshold investment. That's mean 150,000, right?
Yes, thank you. So in fact,
Yeah.
it has a definition of what agriculture means, so that it extends to value addition as well, not just harvesting and packing alone.
Yeah. Does agriculture cover fisheries? Is it the same?
No,
Same.
if them all together.
No, is it? Okay. Okay, so Mohan, if you want to move on.
Yeah. So then the question is about land. So land has always been a touchy subject in Sri Lanka, as all of us would appreciate for different reasons. So foreigners owning lands is also a very sensitive topic. We have had blanket no's, then we have partial yes, then we had said yes, subject to 100% transfer tax. And now we are back to from 2014, when a new law, Land Restrictions on Alienation Act number 38 of 2014 was introduced. So that brought about a blanket no to foreign purchase of lands, but not ownership. There is confusion as to ownership and purchase. If I were a Sri Lankan citizen and I owned land, and tomorrow if I acquire a foreign citizenship, I do not lose my right to ownership, but I lose my right to purchase land. At the same time, I do not lose right to inherit from my parent or receive a gift from my brother or sister. I mean, it says next of kin. So this area is not well understood. So to reiterate, ownership is not lost because you become a foreign non-citizen. It's the right to purchase land. Apartments are exempted. Purchase land is the one that is being restricted.
Yeah, thank you, Mohan. And the reason why I think that is so important is that there's a lot of land where people are dying, and they are leaving that land either through their wills or, I mean, this is a question, Mohan. If it's an intestate will, do the next of kin still have the right to?
Yes, it could be even your half brother or half sister. I mean, the law, you have all the right that you would have, or your hair, say you have a half brother living in Sweden and has Swedish passport, doesn't take away his right.
So this is why I say repeatedly that people who own land should either sell it, give it away, or do something with it. Because when
Yes.
I'm wandering around the northern province and in Jaffna, and even on premier roads like the one I live on, so I live on a Najmark Oval Road, which is called Campus Road. So it is one of the roads. I'm 500 meters away from Jaffna University, and there are unused pieces of land here. I walk everywhere and I see houses, destroyed plots with bullet holes from the war. There's acres and acres of agricultural land, nothing's being done with it. So I always say either sell it. Problem with selling it is that for a lot of this land, there aren't good title deeds. So it's a big headache. And I think that an agency should be set up to get those good title deeds and take 10% of the value or something, take some kind of fee. So either sell it or give it away, because I know that there's land where the people who were displaced during the war have moved onto the land. And until they own the land, they can't sell it. They can't raise finance on it by using it as collateral to get a loan. And they're also vulnerable to some guy or the government having a gazette like it did 3 months ago. And I believe Mohan was involved in the team that actually got that gazette. I don't know what the fancy legal word for it is, but basically suspended. So
Revoked it.
Revoked. So unless you give good title to someone, then you're going to find that it'll be taken away by the government. It'll be given to somebody who you don't want. And then the diaspora was sitting there making a big fuss about all this. So anyway, so my message here is that land, you can inherit land, you can legally inherit land. When you inherit land, if you're overseas, do something with it. Okay.
There's all.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jekhan. Are you
No,
done?
you carry on.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, Bob's got his hand up. Does anyone else have a question before I give it back to Bob? Does anyone else have a question? Because currently it's a three-man show, Mohan, Bob, and me. But Bob, you got it.
Before you go, Bob, can I add something else? Now, this question is actually connected to some of our earlier questions, especially because we are discussing setting up companies. One of the exceptions that is included in this prohibition is that you could own up to 49% shares in a company that owns land. So if you want to start a project in Jaffna, for instance, and you want to buy land, your company, so far as the total foreign shareholding directly and indirectly does not exceed 49%, then those 49% of shares could be held by foreigners, and the balance 51% could be held by a local. Again, where it refers to the earlier question about whether you need a local partner. So that is something that could be advantageous when you want to start a project here, and you want the company to have a stake in the land. Unfortunately, the maximum shares you could go up to is 49%, but at least the company could part own the land. Of course, otherwise you can have a 99-year lease. The company could have a lease and there's no problem. Go ahead, Bob.
Firstly, just on that second point, that's horrible. But anyway, because it can lead to all sorts of exploitation. But like the first part that I want to ask you was, okay, so say for example, this is real life scenario. I've just come back to Jaffna wanting to do some things. So the land has been sitting idle, then it's been going to a person who's now picked up a foreign citizenship, but they've let go of their old citizenship. So what happens in that? They've lost their, so what happens in that particular case?
No, they don't. No, so far as if when you say goes to a foreign a person who has just lost citizenship, I assume it is going by his birthright, right? Because his property had been previously held by his parent or sibling or something like that. Is that
hypothetical but real scenario?
Yeah.
So in our custom, it goes to the daughter, right? So the mother dies and it goes to the daughter, but the daughter is now moved to Australia as an example, right? And she's a citizen of Australia, no longer a citizen of Sri Lanka. But so the property is just sitting idle at the moment. And going back to Jekhan's point, so does she still have rights to the property? And
Yeah,
then,
of course. Yes. And also it doesn't necessarily have to go to the daughter. That's a different Tesavalame is a different that would need another 2 hours of discussion. But normally, I mean, your parents are free to leave their assets to anyone they want by leaving a last will. It's or the operation of Tesavalame comes in only if you don't leave a last will. But again, to reiterate, your loss of citizenship does not take away your right to own property in Sri Lanka. It's just that you can't purchase. If you're for instance, in this instance, if the mother left a house to a daughter in Australia, no problem so far as they produce the daughter's birth certificate and the mother's marriage certificate and a few other documents with some pieces, and then there's no problem. You can get your property transferred to the daughter, and she could then pass it on to, say, her granddaughter who has a US passport. There's no problem.
okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bala Sudarshan.
Yes, I'm Bala Sudarshan from Australia, Sydney. Just a basic question. Is there a different rule for units or flats and houses, or same rules apply?
No. So that's the exception I mentioned earlier. Condominium properties are exempt from this restriction. So if it's a block of apartments and you are a non-Sri Lankan citizen, you could purchase the block of an apartment, provided you bring the money into the country through some designated bank account.
There used to be a rule that it had to be above the 5th floor. Does that no longer apply?
Those all gone. No.
Right. Okay.
So you could design your house in such a way, it's classified as a condominium. And I think down south, they are starting these villas where they meet the parameters of a condominium, and then they are being sold to non-Sri Lankans. So far as it's a condominium and falls within the metes and bounds of the definition of a condominium, then there are no restrictions on foreigners, so-called, foreigners within quotation marks, purchasing. Yeah.
Sorry. So just as we now have a new passion for vertical farming, do we have the concept of horizontal condominiums? And by that, what I mean is if you have a gated community.
Horizontal.
So if you have a gated community. Karan Mo.
Yeah, so gated community, so far as it's classified as a condominium property, if they meet the requirements of condominium property, then that could be, then this act won't apply.
In case of
That's very interesting, because there's a very nice gated community coming up. I know of one in Mandati, and I think there are a couple of others. So if properties inside a gated community came under this, that would be really, really interesting. Okay.
Yes, so far as... Sorry, Jekhan, go ahead.
No. So I was just going to say if you wanted to move on. But if you have anything more to say on that question.
No. So far as the Condominium Management Authority accepts and issues the necessary certificate confirming that's a condominium development, then this law won't apply.
Sorry, Jekhan, I can't put my hand up, so I'm having to cut in and ask a question if you don't mind. Does this essentially
Yeah.
equate to freehold versus leasehold?
No, leasehold, there are no restrictions on the citizenship doesn't matter. A long lease, a 99-year lease, could be obtained by any citizen of the world, but it's freehold that is subject to these restrictions that we discussed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
But-
good question.
yeah.
Okay, thank
Sri
you.
Lanka actually freehold probably constitute 99.9% of the transaction. Leasehold concept is quite alien to Sri Lanka, I must add.
So,
But for business
Bala,
purposes,
if you give
you
me
can get
one
that.
second.
Yeah.
So, sorry, so Mohan, in a condominium then, do people actually own freeholds in a condominium?
So it is freehold, yes.
So each apartment is a freehold?
Yes, its boundaries are the four boundaries, the four walls of the apartment, then the ground floor, the ground that you stand on, and the zenith. It's called the zenith, which is your roof and the ground floor of the person who is above you.
Okay,
So
thank you.
So the person above you and you would share a piece of concrete, which is your roof and his ground.
All right, thank you. Bala, you have your hand up, and that'll be
Yes,
the last one, then we'll move on to the next question.
So in one area, there is a permit land, not the deeds land, the permit land. Is any rules applicable to those land purchase and all?
So permit land is actually state land where permits are granted to selected individuals to cultivate or to live. And there is no sale. There are restrictions. Sometimes it also has what is known as an LDO, where land development ordinance, where you can leave it to the firstborn in the family, no one else, because they don't want it to be subdivided. They don't want it to fall into the usual intercessory rules where property, if a father dies, 50% goes to the mother, other 50% goes equally to the kids, and if one kid has died, then his spouse and kids kick in, so you end up getting 1/10 or 1/20 of the entire land. So a permit land is just a permit to or use and occupy and enjoy the land. It doesn't tantamount to ownership. That's the reason, if you notice, in some of the Tamil areas, you said the government is introducing outsiders. It's actually using this permit is one way of doing it, because they give permits for other people to come and live and enjoy and cultivate those lands. So that's a different ball game. That's not, and it's not easily transferable. That any transfer has to be with the sanction of the district or divisional secretary of the area. And again, if you want to leave it to your family, usually you can't leave it to everyone, and that is also restricted.
Mr. Mohan,
Yeah.
it's not advisable to purchase those land for anyone outside the country.
Yes.
This
yes.
is not
yes.
advisable.
Yeah, I mean, actually, you can't purchase it, right? You have to.
Not advisable. That's one.
Yes.
I am not in a position to advise to purchase. This is
Yeah,
not advisable.
Yes. We also won't. Yes.
Yeah, if you want to do something,
Yeah.
you can lease out a certain period with the permit
Permission.
holder. Yeah, with the permit holder. So otherwise, this there are some misleading are continuing. So those not advisable. These are my suggestion in this junction, please.
Yes.
Okay.
So just one quick question, and then Mohan, if you move on to the next one. So if I lease land from a permit holder, 30-year lease, and that permit holder passes away, then is my lease still valid?
So first of all, we need to check the permit that was granted to him, whether he has been given the right to lease out or even part with possession. Right. So there are instances where there is these off-record transactions. I think Mr. Rasanayagam is alluding to those. There are off-record transactions where you say, okay, I have the permit here, you give me, give me 100,000 or 500,000, I'll give you the land to maybe cultivate or something. They are really not kosher. So whether they, I mean, they should first of all check whether they have the right to lease, Jekhan.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So shall we move on?
Yeah. So the other question is about whether a company could be 100% owned by non-citizen. I've already answered that question. You can go up to 49%. And any more queries on that? Because I know it's a very
Mr. Mohan, I mentioned there's a two type of laws there.
Yeah.
There's a Exchange Control Act, and at the same time BOI Act. So where you try to do your project, keep in your mind. This is my advice.
Yeah.
But Mohan, just to clarify, so you just said 49%, but then that's for certain types of company. There are other types of company, like an IT company, where the foreigner can own 100%.
No. We are only talking about companies owning
agriculture.
We are only talking about foreigners owning companies with interest in land here.
Oh,
that's
okay,
where
yes,
the 49%
right.
comes.
I understand. Yes. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. So there are the rest of the country, of course, there is the port city and all that, but that's a different thing. But yeah, this is only so there is a 49%, 49% cap, and that cannot be changed in any way.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And the other one is about non-citizens bringing funds into Sri Lanka for investment purposes. Actually, it's not just non-citizens, it's non-residents as well, though it's not strictly enforced. But so if I were to go overseas and become a tax resident of, say, country X, if I wanted to buy something, strictly speaking, I must also bring my money through designated accounts. At the moment, these accounts are called inward investment accounts, IIA. So if I want to buy shares in a company, or I want to invest in a company, if I want to buy an apartment, I have to use this account IIA to bring in my funds, and that account could be designated in selective foreign currencies, UK pounds, dollars, Canadian dollars, Swiss francs, etc. And then when I need the money, I would transfer the money from my IIA into my current account, or into if I'm going to buy shares from there, it goes into the respective company's account for me to be issued with shares. And then when I receive dividends, I could use the same route to send the money out through the same IIA account. If I want to sell an apartment which I bought with funds I brought back, I could sell it, deposit the money into my IIA, and take the money out. Of course, before taking the money out in Sri Lanka, usually they get a tax clearance certificate. If to make sure that any dues to the state are settled before you take the money out. But apart from that, the government guarantees any money brought in through these official channels could be taken out when the need arises.
So does anyone
Any
have
question on?
question on that one? So I have a question. What is the risk? So let's say, so I have an IIA account. What is the risk that the government just changes the rules and it just says this dispensation no longer exists? You know, my plan is to stay in this country for good, so it's not actually a big problem for me. But some people who are doing the investments, who are relying on being able, could the government just change the law and say, gotcha, we got your money, we're not going to let you take it out anymore?
So, of course, the state has unfettered rights, of course, and then the citizen has a right to go and challenge it in courts, which rights we often exercise in Sri Lanka, and we see that right is being taken away in the US, for instance, but we still have the right to challenge it, to challenge any such restriction that may be introduced by the state. The state has the right to do it. Usually they don't, because then the investor confidence gets impacted and no one wants to invest in the country. But we must also remember, when we had a foreign currency crunch, the government temporarily stopped outflow of all foreign exchange. Then these things were affected. But at the earliest possible instance, when things got better, they removed those restrictions partially and then fully.
All right,
So,
thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Mohan and Jekhan,
Yes.
with your permission, on behalf of the BOI, is it, if you are okay, I can say something about the BOI. If you are okay only, I can continue something regarding the proposed loan in Mankulam, Parandan and KKs. If you are okay only,
I'm very interested in that.
yes, please. That's the reason, Mr. Rasanagam, in the morning I said we would love to have you on this program, and then for you to contribute as well, because you know things that we are not aware of.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Yeah, there's a good chance to express my view regarding the proposed loan in the northern province. So we have made a long journey to develop the zone in the northern. So in the northern, in the KKS, we have idea to develop 337 acres for investment purposes. Is the KKS area. We are looking investor for the mixed development project, whatever project we can accommodate in the KKS area. The KKS is the logistic hub, the land route, trail route, sea route, and air route. We can think about the logistic hub of that area. So where any type of project, that's not an agriculture project or the fisheries project. So in that area, we can think about a little mixed development. That's mean IT project, manufacturing project, assembling project, and soft skill involved the project. So export oriented project can accommodate in that area. So the land acquisition process is going on. After that, so we will provide all facility. That means actually there's a 4-line road and water, wastewater, that means there's a wastewater management and also the internal road, and you see that's a whatever public utilities we will provide. And that's at the same time, you see that's we are preparing to do the feasibility study about the KK's area. Based on that, we will accommodate whatever project relevant in this area. At the same time, there's a water is the issue in that northern province, even Jaffna. So less water consumption project we can immediately approve in this area. Within a short time, it will be happen. That's only we are waiting for Land Commissioner General suggestion to get the land, nearly 350 acres in the KK's area. Other than in the Parandan area, you see there's a Parandan and Elephant Pass. Earlier, there's a Parandan chemical zone was there, chemical factory was there. So as we have idea in the Parandan area to accommodate whatever project relevant with the chemical. So whatever that's relevant with the chemical industries, we can accommodate it. Like I mentioned, this is KKS. So in the Parandan area also, we will develop the proper infrastructure facilities without any disturbance to the investor. So whatever project relevant with the chemical. So like that, there's your hydrogen gas, or even fertilizer, and even so whatever relevant with chlorine, liquid chlorine, like that, we are able to accommodate in the Parandan area. So in the Mankulam, the second, this I want to mention, there's a Parandan area, nearly 217 acres. The whole area, that's a earlier chemical company planned to develop their plant within the dedicated zone with the 30 acres that they have idea, and they are trying to set up their plant in the Parandan area. Out of that, we also request we also request proposal, whatever there's a chemical oriented or chemical relevant project in that area. So all infrastructure facility will be provided to the investors, right? And at the same time, if we go to Mankulam, the Mankulam, we have initially 200 acres we have identified. Not only that, in addition, we have the provision, the 600 addition, there's 400 acres. So altogether 600 acres are possible. So in the Mankulam is the central place of the northern province, can cover all districts of the northern province. There are 5 districts. We are proposing what type of project in that area. So this in the northern province, you see that's generally agriculture, livestock, fisheries. So other than nothing. So our intention is to accommodate this relevant project. It's a value addition project. Those are possible to export oriented project. Anyone can involve in this area. So water and electricity and internal facility will be developed to the investor. This is the message for you. You all are here. So this is the message from me on behalf of the BOI. So it is the 3 area is it will be support to the northern province, not only northern province, to the youths. At the same time, it will create the GDP of the Northern province. So investors are open, can submit your proposal, whatever. That's we will consider your project. So within a short time, it will be happen. So this the big chance to whoever involved in this area, even diaspora or even outside the investor from the outside the country. So anyone can involve. So in addition, I like to mention in this group, the Northern province, actually the ground is empty. We expect the players to play the game. Whatever play game can play in this area because all gone out during the war. So that this is my suggestion as I involved in this area nearly. I born in northern. I work in the northern. I exercise in the northern. So that with that experience, I can say there's a opportunities are open. So, but the investors need to look little different project. So with your experience, you will be happy if you establish the project in the northern area. So in addition, I like to mention, so we have the office established in the near Kacheri. So anytime you can call me and ask whatever information relevant with your project, so investment matters. So my WhatsApp and telephone always open, even any country from outside. So you can come to my number through the WhatsApp or Viber. That's my number is, you can note it please. So 5 times 7 6606. This is the message to you. Thank you very much. You've given the opportunity to express my view. Please, you can continue.
What is
Thank
your
you.
company
Thank
name?
you,
What is your
Chairman.
company? You didn't mention your company name.
Yeah, no, so let me explain. Jeyamanon is the head of the BOI for the Northern Province. And he, as head of the BOI, as long as I've been here 10 years, for the Northern Province, is very knowledgeable about the sort of developments that have gone on here. But I'd like to reinforce what Jeyamanon has said, that, you know, we can't wait for the government. We currently have a government who, in my opinion, appears to be of goodwill, and we need to take advantage of this window of opportunity. Mohan, do we have any more questions on your list?
I don't think so, unless anyone wants to ask.
So Bala Sudarshan, you have your hand up.
Yes, sorry, I'm again. About these 3 locations in the northern province, are they similar to free trade zone, or all these regulations, other regulations applicable to that area, or there are special regulations governing these areas? Question number 1. Question number 2, when will that be effective? Question number 3, what are the guarantee government, if somebody invests and later on, what are the guarantee the government won't change the rules and they will be in trouble?
I want to answer.
Yes.
Okay, within a short time, it will be active. Within a short time, we are preparing 4th quarter of this year. It will be activated in this 2 zone immediately. Some in the Mankulam area, there's a land identified. Land belongs to Forest Department. The Forest Department agreed to release those land nearly 600 acres, right? So it will take little time. So in Parandan and KKS, within a short time, that's the fourth quarter of the this year, it will be activated, no issue. And first question, I couldn't. What you
Yeah,
the first question?
Yeah, the question is,
Yeah, there's a
all
free
the-
rate zone. This one, those will be a free rate zone and export processing zone. We expect the project. Actually, there's a export oriented projects we expect. Export oriented because the we need the money, we need export income so that it will be a export oriented place, right? Third question.
the government changes, what will happen?
Government changes. Mr. Mohan, I think you can say, and at the same time, Jekhan, with your experience, you can say this. I am not in. This, I can
Yes,
say
sir.
directly, no issue.
Yeah.
Whoever invest in this area, if you are neutral, so that is Mr. Mohan and Jekhan, you can answer this question with your experience and knowledge. Thank you.
Mr. Asanayakam, there is a clause now in every BOI agreement that withdrawal, any change is quite regulated. I can't remember the exact wording, but isn't there some?
No. That's a. You see, the agreement can't violate it.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah.
The agreement. If we make the agreement, can't violate it. There's the legal provisions are there, so you can go if you are thinking about the discrimination or whatever. You can go arbitration. So no issue. Yes, according to my knowledge, and I am in the person. So you are the person in the legal matters, you can say, and the Jekhan, you are in the ground, you know something, you can explain. How? Right?
Okay, so from my opinion, I don't trust politicians. I mean, you can take from that what you will. Okay, now.
All what I can say.
I like to come in here.
Yes,
Jekhan, can I come in?
Yeah.
Everybody, I am operating under the BOI for the last 22 years. The investments are guaranteed by BOI in terms of jurisdiction. And I have operating under 22 years. Different governments have come and gone. I haven't had any issue. Okay, it's just a feedback I can give. I have a business under BOI. Mr. R.Jeyamanon, you remember me. Satyendra.
So Sati is from Sydney in Australia.
No, I'm in the Colombo at the moment, but I operate the business in South, not in the North. But I'm operating since 2003 under BOI. I haven't had any issues. All right, that's just to keep people posted.
Yeah. One thing I'll qualify my statement, and it's something that Mohan said earlier, is if the government did change the rules so drastically, then they would destroy Sri Lanka's credibility as an investment destination. And for their pure self-interest, I think that they wouldn't do that. So in my opinion, I agree with Sati that it is unlikely, very unlikely, that government will be so self-destructive as to do that. Now, it's nearly 1.5 hours, so I'll allow one question.
Yeah, is getting the 10-year investor visa necessary before getting into any investment? You know, the visa for foreign nationals, is it necessary to get the 10-year investor visa? It is the right way to start the things.
I'm not aware of a 10-year visa. One of the things I mentioned earlier also is if you have a BOI company, they would assist you in obtaining your visa. If you're not, you can still get your visa, but it's a longer process. I don't think they start with 10 years though, but visa is not a prerequisite. An investor visa is not a prerequisite to start an investment here. You could come here on a business visa. We have your meetings, form your company, and then you could then apply for, I think here they're called residence visas, if I'm not mistaken. But residence visa have different categories, and they would say that you are entitled to run your business. And I usually they start with short durations and then go up maybe 2 to 5 years. I haven't heard of a 10-year though. Mr. Rasanayagam, have you heard about a 10-year visa for investment?
No. That's not a requirement. So normally that's every countries are promoting FDI. So that in Sri Lanka, that's not a basic requirement. So that anyone can come and do the business. It's not a compulsory requirement, please.
No, regular visitor visas are given for a period of 1 month, I think, 30 days or something. And you can't apply again.
Visitors visas, as I understand, can be 3 months and renewable. But there's another type of visa that at least used to exist. Before I became a dual citizen, this was relevant to me. And that is that if you're of Sri Lankan heritage, so if you were born here or you can show that your parents were Sri Lankan, then you have a right to a residence visa. Now, residence visa won't allow you to have paid employment, but it does mean that you can live here. And if you've invested, you can keep an eye on your investments. My guess is maybe Mr. Jeyamanon can confirm, or Mohan, that still exists. So if I remember right, if you were born here and your parents were Sri Lankan.
No, I am asking for a foreign national. I am not. I don't have any.
So I would don't come here on a visitor's visa, and I think it's better if you want to involve yourself in investments and having business meetings. It's always better to get your business visa rather than a tourist visa, because the purpose is not tourism. And then you come here, you can sort out everything, and then you can apply for your relevant visa. Again, I just can't recall I think they're all called residence visas, but they're different types.
Yeah, that's I want to mention Mohan and Jekhan. Yeah, you can come as an investor, not only immediate. If you want to study the situation of this area, so that you can apply, or you come to BOI office and ask, so what is your intention? So they will guide whatever you need. Don't worry. So don't think about exceptional cases. If you are interested, do something in the Sri Lanka, first you go and ask or submit your proposal and application and request to the BOI. After that, they will guide to you what you want to do, where you can go, everything freely available. So without any hesitate, you first go and ask the BOI office. It is in the World Trade Center. So there are so many floors. So there is in front of desk offices there. So you can ask, go and ask. No issue. Don't worry. They will guide you where you want to go, who you want to meet. They will guide. And at the same time, the investor facilitation center is there in the floor. So they will send to that area. If you go that area, you will get all whatever information you need they will provide. Don't worry. Don't hesitate. You entered the BOI office. That's my suggestion, not to request. This is a suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'm proposing to wind this up now. We've gone an hour and a half, which is 50% longer than usual, and it's been really very useful. I will share Mr. Jayamanon's number as well as Mohan's.
Yes, please.
So you can contact them directly. I think this has been an excellent session.
Yeah, that's Mr. Jekhan.
Yes.
One thing, please, 1 minute. In this time, I want to mention, if you have idea, you go and ask that there are possibilities. If you want to start the project, you have the provision to get the state land on lease basis. That one also they will guide to you if you are a real investor. So not to worry about the land matter. The state lands are available. You can ask on lease basis and can make request. So this is the additional information to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to now, as usual,
Jekhan,
say, yeah,
can I
who's
say
that?
something?
R.Jeyamanon. Go on.
Yeah, I was listening to the entire discussion. I would suggest that there's a booklet or something prepared in Jaffna to facilitate the investment in the northern province. I think there are a lot of aspects to discuss today, but finally what happened is people can't refer somewhere all this information together. So I think it may be a good idea if we can work on a guide, ease of doing business or whatever, and that would help people to fine-tune their plan to
Again,
work on
Mohan.
investments in the northern province.
Yes, Mohan. Again, Jekhan.
Yes,
don't worry. So my office is open to anyone, whatever information we have. One thing. And second thing, if you want to know anything, just you type investsrilanka.com. That will give all information about Sri Lanka. Right? After that, you can come to my office. You will get whatever matters, the information matters. I am ready to provide. So I mentioned my name and my telephone number, even WhatsApp. 24 hours, no restriction. You can what you want. We have made a study, the mapping, and we have the document. So don't worry. Where what we can do, what type of project is possible. We have the document. Not in the open. Thank you.
Yes,
Mr.
thank you.
Now, if an investor is clearly not going to invest 100,000 and if his project does not extend up to 100,000, could he still call upon or call on your office for assistance, or do they still have to meet the minimum requirements for your office to assist? Because I'm sure most of these would be investors probably won't meet this minimum investment criteria.
No. Whatever if you have idea, first you come and talk with me over the phone. You just talk with me. I'll guide. Other than there is no person to guide properly in the northern province or eastern province. I am ready to guide whoever wishing to invest in the northern province. So what the way to set, you will get it from me. These are my assurance. Okay.
Thank you,
Jayamanon. I do agree with Mr. Jayavaaraman that investors, particularly diaspora, think in a different way to the way our government thinks. And I think it would be a very useful idea to have very thin booklets to introduce, to tempt, to entice potential investors to come in and then talk to Mr. Jeyamanon. Sorry, I'm not going to take any more questions now, as it's getting quite late. But I will circulate Mohan and Jayamanon's the BOI number. So have a good morning, lunchtime, evening, and Mohan, I'm looking forward to you taking me out for dinner. So goodbye, everybody. Bye. Bye.
Yeah, thank you all. It was a nice discussion.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
You take care.
Andre.